saw somebody's Instagram story recently, and they were talking about how they were excited to get into reading. The gist of the video was this guy had gone his whole life never reading a book, and now he's gonna get into reading. I thought that was interesting because it reminded me about how I used to feel, which is I used to hate books. I used to not know what was in books. I don't like reading text, not a fan. Reading did change my life, and I'll show you this right now. This is my Audible. I've got 258 titles in this library. Master level audiobook. So many badges. Look at all my badges. So gamified. But in today's video, I want to talk about how to read more books, why I read, and how reading can change your life. What if I acted like that all the time? Here's how I got into reading. Number one, I realized I don't like reading text on a page. You give me a book and it's paperback and I can't do it. For some reason, I just cannot get my eyes to focus. Maybe it's something with my vision, maybe it's something in my brain stopping me, but I just do not enjoy the process of looking at a screen and reading text. So finding audiobooks was a game changer for me. It allowed me to play books quick, 2 times or even 3 times speed, and that got me into the story enough to keep reading. The other hack before I found audiobooks was to take the paper book and try to just read it as quick as possible. That way I would force myself to get into the book, experience some of the book, and then hopefully get some of the ideas in. But I didn't have the attention span nor the desire to read at all for basically my entire life. I think it has something to do with the school system. Anytime anyone assigns me a book, or really anytime anyone assigns me anything, I don't want to do it. But you give me a book to read. You say, hey, read To Kill a Mockingbird by Thursday. I will not read To Kill a Mockingbird. But you give me the To Kill a Mockingbird audiobook, I might listen to it in an afternoon. So everyone has different learning styles. If you don't like reading, maybe you're an audiobook guy. Do audiobooks have less value than real books? I would say no, because, here's number 2. I would rather be the type of person that reads 10 audiobooks a year than the type of person that reads 0 books a year. It's a simple psychological principle. There's the ideal version, and then there's what you actually do. So some people would say, I want to be the type of person who reads 1 book a week. And then they'll try, and they'll read maybe 10% of a book in a week, and they won't get it done, and then they'll quit reading forever. I would rather be the person that's reading 1 page a week than the person that's reading 0 books a week because they want to read 1 book a week and can't do it. Starting is hugely important. I read through a couple books that changed my life. Things like 4-Hour Workweek and a lot of those Seth Godin audiobooks really opened my mind and painted a picture of the world as it is. You never really know how your mindset's going to change without it. But forcing myself to go through that process and read a few of these books unlocked books for me as a pastime. And then number 3, final point here, is read books about anything. The rule of thumb that I like is if you're even a little bit interested in the topic, read the book about it. I read a book recently about Michael Jordan. I hate sports, as I've probably said a million times, but Michael Jordan, I was listening to this podcast and it was like a conspiracy theory podcast about Michael Jordan. It was recommended on Spotify. And it was talking about how he was kicked out of basketball because of the mafia, or it was like some weird story. But it got me interested and I read this whole 20-hour book about Michael Jordan. Still not into sports, but I got a new perspective. Every single book I've read actually has changed my mind or increased my point of view on something. And because I'm going for these little interests, now I've read books about art. I read Andy Warhol's book. I've read books about sports. And the more you can expose yourself to these different points of view, the better you get at business. And I found that there have been ideas in movie producing books that have improved the process at X27. There were things in the Michael Jordan book, how he approached his career, that have improved the way that I look at things, my long-term view. Things in Jack Ma's book about Alibaba have improved the way we do storytelling in movies. So it all feeds together. You don't have to read only business books. In fact, I barely read business books. It's almost all biographies of people, and some are businessmen, but most of them are just very successful people in other industries. We don't think about it a lot, or at least I don't think about it a lot, but Richard Branson is a billionaire businessman, but Andy Warhol, the artist, was worth $200+ million. Picasso, the artist, multiple hundreds of millions of dollars. Paul McCartney, a musician, is worth almost $1 billion. So we think of these business magnates when we think of success and we think of money. I would argue that Andy Warhol was just as successful as Mark Cuban, and he was doing something that he found more fulfilling. But that mindset would not have happened if I didn't read all of these random books. Let's do the final part of this video, which is books that I recommend. Here's what I'm reading right now. Books that I recommend. Role Models by John Waters. It's an interesting read, completely outside the realm of business, but John Waters is a cult filmmaker. He made a bunch of these movies in the 70s, 80s, 90s that have gone on to very limited cult success, but he has a very dedicated audience. He also did Hairspray. And in this book, he talks about all of his role models, all the people that inspired him, a lot of artists, a lot of fashion designers, stuff like that. So I'd recommend that book. Who is Michael Ovitz? By Michael Ovitz. He started this talent agency called Creative Artists Agency that went from nothing to basically taking over Hollywood, representing most of the major talent within a few years. And he did it just by hustling a little harder than other people and being completely dedicated to client service. Huge win. The other one, I did a YouTube video on this a while ago, but The Hiltons. It's all about Conrad Hilton and how he built this hotel empire out of nothing. Very interesting to see how people can put a business together and create this multi-billion-dollar empire from nothing, from just an idea. Zealot, The Life and Times of Jesus Christ. It's by Reza Aslan, who I know is kind of a controversial figure, but I had such a hard time getting into like Christian concepts. I love religion as a concept, you know, and I was raised in a really weird background. Like my mom practices voodoo and my dad was Orthodox Jewish, so it's like a really weird background. This book really helped me understand a lot about why people follow Jesus, which is interesting. You know, I'm not a practicing Jesusite. You can read books outside of your religion. Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh. It's about how he built the company Zappos, basically from nothing, a lot of hustle. And then if you're a little bit more advanced in the entrepreneurship space, I would recommend the Howard Schultz book, Onward, which is how Howard Schultz came back to Starbucks after a long break. He's the CEO, founder of Starbucks, and rebooted their entire business. Closed the stores down for days to retrain employees, rebuilt all of his systems, rebuilt his marketing. It's an amazing book on troubleshooting your business. Check all those out. Audible.com is what I use for audiobooks. If you love paperbacks or you love hardcovers, or you can't stand audio, I would say read them in that format. If you want the proposal that we use at Lorelia Pictures to sell video production projects, that is over at experiment27.com/proposal. If you want the contract that we use at X27 for our agency clients, that's experiment27.com/contract. The questions we use on call number 1, that is experiment27.com/discovery. That's how we qualify clients. And if you want to meet with billion-dollar brands, you run an agency and you want bigger clients, check out x27marketing.com. That's our services where we help these businesses meet with huge companies. Subscribe if you're not already, leave a like, leave a comment. I'd love to talk to you. Share this video if you want, and I will talk to you later. I'm Alex Berman.